Hi, I'm Danny Ramos. Welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV. We're here every week on Bright House Cable at 9:30 p.m. every Tuesday. We also have been on the air for 9 years, and we want to thank Bright House Cable for cooperating with our show to get information out to the bilingual Hispanic community of Central Florida. I wanted to show you our license plate. This is the first Hispanic license plate in the United States of America. And this plate was passed by the state legislature about 8 months ago. When you go down to DMV, when it's time to renew, you can have this license plate on your car, naturally for Hispanic people if they want to. It's anybody can have it, but our market is the Hispanic community. And all the proceeds from the plate go to scholarship grants for needy students in the state of Florida. So if your birthday's coming up and you've got to register your car, pick up a plate and help out the community. We also produced this book called the Central Florida Lawyers Directory. If you're going to hire a lawyer, before you hire a lawyer, get this book because it gives you very pertinent information on how to hire a lawyer, what to ask a lawyer before you sign on the dotted line, and a lot of information about questions that you can ask them about injury, about divorce, about bankruptcy, a lot of things like that. And it's got all the telephone numbers that you may need to call for state and city officials. And this book is available in all the 7-Eleven stores throughout Central Florida, 165 7-Eleven stores, and 36 Winn-Dixie stores, supermarkets. It's a bilingual, so if you want to read it in Spanish, you can this way, and you flip it over, you can read it in English, and it's chock full of good information. It's free of charge. Pick it up at any 7-Eleven or Winn-Dixie. Tonight, we're talking about the vote and getting people out to vote. The presidential is coming up, and everybody is concerned about how bloody this battle is going to be for the White House. We have here Jose Balesquide, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that the way you pronounce it?
That's the right way.
I got it on there, right? And he's the Florida director of Mi Familia Vota. And we have Julissa Arce, who's the state coordinator.
Yes.
Right? I got it right, right?
That's right.
It's about time I got it right. Okay, so what is your job? What do you do?
Well, basically, the work of Mi Familia Vota is promote the civic participation in between the Latino communities and the allied communities, specifically in the immigrant Latino communities.
Okay. Immigrants vote?
No, they don't.
Okay. So what are you trying, if they're not allowed to vote because they're not citizens, then why are you working in that group?
Exactly, that's right. That's the main reason. We also work with the immigrant communities, and the way we do that is creating workshops for the residents who qualify to become citizens. Okay. And we help them to fill the forms and fulfill specifically the waiver forms, which is going to reduce the amount of money they have to spend.
Okay. Are they legal when you work with them, or are they?
Yeah, they have to.
They have to be legal.
Yeah, they have
so you don't have anything to do with people that are here that are not supposed to be here?
That's right.
Okay, so you check their IDs and everything for that?
Well, that's part of the lawyer's job. And,
okay.
And when we arrive to the workshops and when we create these situations, we bring lawyers who are willing to give us pro bono work. So they do what they have to do. So
lawyers actually come and volunteer?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I can get you some lawyers too?
That's great.
You know, we have a publication. Actually, what we've done is our nonprofit organization has gone to create profit-making programs. Okay, we have companies that we created, actual companies, to fund ourselves, which is really, really, and this book is part of that program. So lawyers actually have to pay to be here, and what happens is that goes into our nonprofit organization as funding. So we would like to say goodbye to all of these people that we depend on for money and make our own money so we can make our own decisions. But anyway, that's another story. What do you do as state coordinator? And what does that mean? I know what a director does. A director manages. Absolutely. But what does a coordinator do?
A coordinator's job is to basically coordinate and build within the community. So my position with Mi Familia Vota, I work with other groups, educational groups, business owners, community leaders. We have different branches that we work out of: faith, education, business.
You work with churches?
We do. You know, strictly, obviously, being nonpartisan and nonprofit, we have to keep it on that side as well. But basically, my position as a coordinator, we work with them. So we want to create long-lasting relationships within the community. We want to work with students and get the information out there for Hispanic people in general. where we can educate them to not only become citizens through the workshops that Mi Familia will offer, but also those who are already citizens to register to vote and do it adequately.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to people when they think it's a contradiction of ideologies, where on the one hand you're saying you want everyone to vote, on the other side of it you have people who can't vote, and yet you're still trying to solicit them in some direction? And how do you coordinate that in the face of the fact that you've got counties and parts of states that are prosecuting well over 180 laws to try to cut down on people's voting rights? How do you overcome that?
Well, you refer to the purge situation instead.
Well, I mean, because you really have a situation now where it would appear you have a group of people on one side over another side trying to curtail anyone's ability to vote, and having it only pertain to one particular group, let alone another. Okay, so let's say for Hispanics are being pinpointed right now as a target. How do you undo that? What kind of education are you providing to probably not just Latinos, but to everybody involved to vote, and to vote regardless of what party they are?
Very interesting question. Basically, what we will do is promote the participation in terms of the election participation, explaining and educating the citizens out there in how important is this specifically for our community, any community in general, but our organization is focused in aiming into the Latino community. So we will have to promote the importance of our participation, and will result in better benefits for our community, expansion and business-wise, and big amount of different other ways. But in terms of the situation that we have with the accusations out there, I think, and it sounds like if they already have a clear proof, they should bring it out. And if that doesn't happen, it make us it gives us a big window to think that it could be a strategy to eliminate the possibilities for our community to express properly.
Well, for example, another example, a white public official was just indicted on voter fraud. In fact, two of them. I think one's the boss of the other. They both got
teamwork
on voter fraud. And of course, there's a big push by another party that we want to mention, that Latinos, minorities, seem to be the people that are perpetuating voter fraud. Is part of your struggle also to overcome the negative attitude?
Definitely it is. Once they create the profiling for our community, and we being us an organization which represent mainly the Latino communities, is the target. We are the target for any other propaganda out there, and it's very difficult. We're trying to be very clear and very open in terms of our documentations and our mainly goals in terms of the community, to prevent type of judgments like that.
Why do we have such a big problem with voter turnout? I know you're there to help that situation, but why traditionally Hispanics don't turn out to vote? Now, I know that there's two possibilities that I can think of, but I'm asking you that question.
Another interesting question.
Yeah.
I'm glad you do make those questions.
Because we've been criticized for that. We've been Hispanics don't turn out.
Yeah.
You know?
There are, I will say, there are several reasons out there. Mainly I will start with the Puerto Rican community, who's recently moved from Puerto Rico to the state of Florida. Basically, they don't have the knowledge about the process and how this works. Is every 2 years instead having it every 4 years, which is the way they run in Puerto Rico. Also, the representation in terms of party. In Puerto Rico, all the parties represent the status quo of the island, and obviously it's totally different over here. The parties on over here.
What are you doing to educate them? What actual things are you doing to educate and change that Because obviously, if you're talking about Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, and they've been U.S. citizens for about 100 years. So if you're having difficulty with U.S. citizens, I can imagine the difficulty you're having with Central and South Americans who are coming here. And that's a whole different ballgame because of the politics and, you know, the fear of voting.
We work with other organizations like us, for example, ACLU. We are collaborating together with other organizations as well to create voter protection town hall conversations to get the community involved. So not only does the citizens know what are their rights, how do these new laws change their voter rights, how does that affect them, and what can they do about it? We do voter registration. We are a third-party voter registration organization. So in our training for our canvassers, you know, we train them very well. We have the Office of Elections come and give them the basic training of the voter registration application. We have our own training where we can let them know, okay, here, you know, we kind of give them like role play. So some of the things that we encountered when we are, you know, on the street, basically registering all these citizens either to vote or do address change or anything like that, is they're very jaded. They don't want to vote. They don't feel like their vote counts. Others just kind of, you know, people just don't really care. Or most of them, they don't know. They don't know. The information isn't out there enough. So our mission, you know, part of our mission is to get that information out there through various means, like the voter protection town hall conversations, for example. And we have a lot of ideas, you know, to work, like I mentioned, with youth, with faith-based organizations, churches, and even local businesses as well.
Okay. How successful are you with churches? Because that's a clustering point for Hispanics. You know, there are churches that have 300, 400 members, you know, and that's a real point of where you can communicate with a lot of people.
We've had success. You know, obviously it's a 50-50, but you know, not just in church, we have had success. We are stationed in different areas throughout town, you know, where our canvassers are, where they would ask, you know, people, oncoming customers, or, you know, we go to different events, concerts, just.
And how do you work? Do you give out flyers? How do you work it?
We do a lot of social media advertising. So being that we are a nonprofit, we are limited in our resources. So word of mouth, shows like this.
So you're telling me you run into a problem where you're not getting Hispanic medias to cooperate to get the word out?
We are not. We actually are partners with Univision and a campaign called Ya Es Hora, Inscríbete, and Ya Es Hora Ciudadanía.
Okay. And what is your phone number for your organization?
The phone number is...
If anybody wants to get in touch with them, she's going to give you the phone number and the website?
Yes. The phone number is 407-494-4280. And the website is www.mifamiliavotafl.org.
Okay. All right. You know, our organization has literally thousands of people on Facebook, so if you want me to transfer that message over, we can help you with that. We have a lot of people on Facebook. We're very good with social media. And we also can do some email blasts to a lot of people. You know, we have about 200,000 people on our email list. So we can help you out with that. Jose, before we close?
One last one, if you add one, less than a minute.
30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Yes, sir.
What do you want the public to know about what you do?
Well, basically, how important it is for our community to develop our own voice out there and to express it. We're going to have, if we do that, we're going to have the ability to elect the officials. They are with the same set of mind, or at least the same priorities for our community. Participate.
In other words, if you don't vote, don't complain.
Don't complain.
Don't complain about your situation if you don't vote. I'm Danny Ramos, and this is another edition, partial edition, and you'll be back in a second with the camera again to our next guest. We're here every Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. covering community issues. Look up Mi Familia Vota. If you're interested in helping them, the telephone number and website is scrolling across the screen as I speak. So take your time and write it down and contact Jose. And if you have any questions that you can ask him, call him up on that phone number. We'll be back in a minute. Hi, this is Danny Ramos, and welcome back to Hispanic Speak Out TV after a fade-in break. Thank you to Mi Familia, who is helping all people register to vote in this coming year, which is a critical year politically for the country. One more time, we have our lawyers directory Our lawyers directory can be found in 200 retail outlets, 170 7-Eleven stores, and 36 actual Winn-Dixies. And this book is free of charge, and it instructs you on how to hire a lawyer. So before you pick up the phone and call a lawyer, pick up this free book at any 7-Eleven store in Central Florida and any Winn-Dixie. We're here today with Lolita, my co-host, and Eric Lasso. And Eric Lasso is running for the seat that was occupied by Mildred Fernandez. Just to give you a playback for those who have a short memory, Mildred Fernandez was arrested, is serving time in jail for taking a bribe while she was an Orange County commissioner that involved cash and money that she took as part of her campaign fund. So she is gone right now, and now there's a big fight for who's going to take that seat over. There are 5 candidates running for that seat right now. And we're here with one of those candidates who says that he is going to win this election, and that's Eric Lasso. Eric, how much are you going to win by?
Oh, I think we're going to win by more than 50%. So.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay. You got five guys are running, right?
Yes.
So with 5 guys running, how does this election work? I mean,
yeah,
you got 5.
There's 5 people running, so we have the primaries August 14th. Unless someone gets the 50% plus 1, then the top 2 vote getters are going to move on to November, and then whoever wins that election wins the county commission seat. Okay.
So you can have 2 Republicans win?
You could.
Or 2 Democrats win?
You could. Any 2 people.
But then those 2, the Democrat and the 2 Democrats can be running against each other.
That's correct.
Okay, that's good teamwork. You know, knock each other off.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a nonpartisan race, so you know your political party. You can't run with your political party. It doesn't show up on the ballot or anything like that.
Who else is running in that race?
We have a couple different people running in that race. We have Michael Aviles.
Okay.
We have Pete Clark, Lydia Pisano, and Louis Damiani.
Okay. And give me a little bit about each one. You know, just a phrase.
Okay. Michael, I like him. I think he's a young guy. He's the Democrat in the race. Pete Clark is a Republican. He's in the race as well. Lydia Pisano is a former Democrat turned Republican who's running.
Do these guys have experience? I mean, what kind of background do they have?
It's a variety for all of them, obviously. Louis, Damiani, Lydia, and Pete have all run for this seat and lost. So they've tried to get the county commission seat before. Myself and Michael are the only 2 Hispanics in the race, and we're also the 2 youngest in the race. How
do you feel about being Hispanic, the redistricting situation?
Oh, I mean, I think, unfortunately, when Louis Damiani was on the commission, I really think he, betrayed the Hispanic community. The percentage of Hispanics went down in District 3, and I think he gerrymandered the district in his favor, knowing that he was going to run for it.
Okay. I happen to agree with you 100%. I considered Louis Damiani, and I'll say it again, back in the day when the KKK really had their finger on controlling the black community, they did exactly that. In order not to allow people to get in, they redid the district lines, so it made it impossible to reduce the percentage of people in a district.
Right.
And that's an old KKK game, that goes back into the 40s and 50s when they could no longer muscle people. They started playing with the political process.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened in this district. They moved the political lines so that it would reduce the Hispanic vote, and Hispanics could not elect another Hispanic.
That's correct.
So in my game, Louis Damiani is a total enemy of the Hispanic people in this town. And, Hispanics are out there. I usually don't do this. I usually don't endorse people, but I will not hesitate to say, don't vote for somebody. And this guy, I would not vote for.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to vote for him either.
Well, that's obvious, right? That's so obvious. Come on.
But, I do think that there is some representation issues on the county commission. And you think of the bigger issues. The county has a big initiative, for instance, to expand trade and business with Central and South American countries. Who on the commission is going to be the person to do that? There's nobody on there that even speaks Spanish. So, you need to have some representation. It's not only about District 3, too. There's Hispanics in other parts of Orange County, in Winter Garden and Apopka, and they all tend to flow into District 3 when they have questions or concerns, because they know there's people there that can speak Spanish and can help them. So it's not just for District 3, it's also for the Orange County community at large.
How do you think it's going to turn out, besides you winning?
Well, I think that it's going to be a probably low turnout race. The primary is August 14th. It's the week before school starts, middle of summer. I don't think there's going to be a lot of turnout.
The Hispanic vote is critical to you then?
It is.
So what
Absolutely.
are you doing in order to, because now the percentage is smaller for the district, are you approaching it in any different way? Or?
We are going after the Hispanic vote, obviously, with radio. Speaking in Spanish, so that people who maybe English isn't their first language understand that there are Hispanic candidates out there that are running. We're also attending events that are put on by Hispanic organizations to make sure we meet community leaders and just voters in the district. And we're also doing advertising. That's a big part of the campaign. We have literature in Spanish. We have volunteers who, when we go knocking door to door.
And when is the election?
August 14th.
Okay, that's around the corner.
Yeah, a little more than 2 months away.
Okay.
And let me just ask, I'd like to ask a question in regard to families, Hispanic families, knowing right now in the state of Florida, specifically in our community, that we're faced with a high rate of foreclosures, high rate of people losing their jobs in the economy. What is going to be so different coming up in this race that people are going to look at you and say, you know what, I believe in what you're doing? Because I think a lot of people have lost that faith.
Sure. I think a lot of people have lost some faith in government. I think the biggest thing I bring to the table is I'm a financial planner. That's my day job. And I think that we need more business people to serve in government, especially financial experts. The reason why people are suffering because of foreclosure and things like that is because they're losing their jobs. And if you want to get the economy back, you actually need people who work in the private sector, I think, to serve in government that know what things we can do to bring it back, get rid of some rules and regulations that make it difficult for some of these Hispanic businesses to deal with the county, and also make it easier for these businesses and entities so that they can prosper and then they won't have to go through a foreclosure and they're having their income come back. And I think that's a lot of it. There's a lot of Hispanic entrepreneurs out there and they're choosing not to open businesses in Orange County. And we got to get them to open their businesses here.
Ron Blocker was here a couple of weeks ago, and he said two things. Number one, the digital divide with minorities, okay? And number two, the dropout rate starts at pre-K. If you become a commissioner, how are you going to approach that problem, the dropout rate?
Well,
and also the social problems, because all these kids, you go back and you start the pre-K thing, that's fine, you can control that. But then you have already people who are that are not educated properly.
Sure.
And it's a big problem in Orange County.
Yeah, I think it's a real multifaceted problem. On the technological divide, I do think, people need to know this is a very different world, and I think there has been a lot of people who've been left behind because of this technological revolution. If you're not confident or comfortable using computers and technology, you're definitely going to be left behind.
But a lot of people don't have the money to buy.
That's where
you need cable. It costs $60, $70 a month to have it brought into your house.
Sure.
Plus you need the equipment.
Well, you're actually starting to see a lot of opportunities, for instance, at the libraries, where they're becoming huge computer banks where you can go there and use a computer, so that's free. You don't need to subscribe to cable. You're actually also starting to see areas where there's free Wi-Fi, so you can access the internet, like in city or county and common areas. Bright House is actually doing that. I think that's a great program that they're doing. As far as staying in school, I think one thing that the schools don't do a good job at is they tend to push everyone towards college. Well, not everyone necessarily needs to go to college. There's a lot of jobs still out there that people can do, like the trades, plumbing, car repair, things like that, that if you're not necessarily college bound, they need to put you on a track that you can go to one of these training programs or apprentice type programs, because that's something that you're probably going to like. Whereas being pushed towards college, if that's not your thing, you're more likely going to drop out.
What about taxes?
Well, I think definitely taxes. I don't think it's an environment where taxes are going to be raised. I do think we need to find some ways to cut waste. Anytime there's waste, that's your money that's being mishandled. We actually found over $80,000 of Orange County money that was misplaced already. It only took me an hour to find it, and I think if the county voters hire me to do the job full time, I'm going to find a lot more. I do think that the county, probably 20 to 30% of the budget's wasted. And we actually absolutely have to go after that and find what that waste is so that we can then spend that money on the things that the government should be spending the money on. Okay.
How do you feel about Romney having money in foreign banks while we're having financial problems in this country?
I'm a certified financial planner.
I gotta ask.
It doesn't bother me because capital flows to where it's the most opportunistic. And so
I understand that part. Yeah. It's the businessman mentality. But a guy who's running for president of the United States is keeping his money in foreign banks? Isn't that really contrary?
I think he has money in the U.S. banks too. It's not just in foreign
No, he's
banks.
got a lot. Most of it is in foreign banks.
Most people who have a lot of money spread their money among various banks.
But he's not people. He's running a candidate for president of the United States.
Honestly, I don't see that being a big deal.
You don't see it as a big deal?
No.
How about you? You see it?
Oh, I do. I see it as a huge big deal, but I could be someone very different. You know, I've seen a lot of corruption in the financial world, so
Sure.
I'm probably going to have a much different opinion of that. I see where the banks really do control, and as I always say, they puppet the politicians. I believe that because I've seen it too much, too often.
Some of the banks overseas are probably run better than American banks. That's probably why people move their money there.
That could be the case. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not the case. That could be the case. My issue is simple. Banks have claimed they don't have enough money to lend to small business. And you got a guy running for president of the United States, and he's going to be president of the United States. He has to establish a pattern to support the country, you know?
Yeah. A lot of times,
So
too,
I do have an issue with that.
people with a lot of money, too, a lot of times, and I'm pretty sure Mitt Romney has this, too, is what's called the blind trust. So they actually can't, because they're not the trustee of actually their own money, they can't determine where the money is, where it can be placed, or what it's invested in. It's actually done blindly so that they don't have any undue influence, don't pass legislation that can affect their own holdings or investments or make money off of it. So
you're saying it's somebody else's fault?
no, it's not anyone's fault. It's just that he doesn't have a choice in it.
I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that. Just because
okay.
This is a local race.
Yeah.
This is a local race. Okay, who's the worst candidate out of all these guys?
Oh,
Who do you think is the worst candidate?
That's a tough one. You
And
know,
then, but then I'll ask you, who do you think is the best?
Yeah. You know, I think it's tough to say. You know, I'm not one of those persons that's going to throw a lot of mud. I think the candidates not all the candidates bring, I think, some of the business experience, which I'd like to see. You know, I think there are some good candidates that are running that have some good ideas. I think we all have good ideas too. But I don't think anyone has the great combination of business experience, ideas, to be able to represent the district as well as I do.
Okay. The thing with Louis Damiani, he's probably the leading guy, brand name recognition, as far as everyone's concerned on this list. Do you think?
Well, I think he's certainly he's
run a couple of times already. He's lost a couple of times. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I think he's the establishment candidate for sure. But we've seen a lot of times where the establishment candidate is lost. And I think people are maybe supporting him only because he was in the seat for a while. But I don't think that because of redistricting, the district is very different than when he was in the seat. And I think that's what's going to be the real question mark, is how the new areas of the district vote. And I don't think that anyone has any advantage because of that.
So you think you're going to win?
I do. I'm pretty confident about it.
Tell me in 30 seconds about your family.
Well, my family.
Who are you? Basically?
Yeah, I've been living in.
You're Hispanic?
I am Hispanic. My dad's from Panama.
Okay.
And my mom's family is originally from Spain. So I'm the first one in my dad's family to actually be born in the United States. All my family on my dad's side all lives in Panama. Aunts and uncles. Grew up mostly in Miami, but then moved here after I graduated college from the University of Florida. Got my bachelor's and MBA.
Any kids?
No kids, not yet.
Not yet?
I am married though. My wife and I got married last year.
Yeah.
And started my own business a couple years ago. So.
Okay. Well, this is Eric Lasso, and we run out of time.
Okay.
We will see you next week. This is Danny Ramos on Hispanic Speak Out, brought to you every Tuesday night for the past 8 years on Bright House Cable. Thank you to Bright House. We'll catch you next week. Thank you.